Have you ever walked into a room and just felt your attention get pulled almost like a magnet toward one person? Someone who just seems to own the entire space without even saying a word? Well, that's not magic. And it is definitely not an accident. It's a calculated move. Today, we're going to deconstruct one of the most powerful and often invisible psychological tools used to command attention and status. It is a high-stakes social game that's being played all around us, in boardrooms, at parties, online, every single day. We're talking about the art of psychological peacocking. And by the end of this, you won't just see the strings, you'll know exactly how they're being pulled. Now, this quote, it sounds completely backwards, doesn't it? I mean, all of our deepest instincts are about survival, right? About blending in, staying safe, avoiding danger. So why on earth would anyone choose to make themselves a target? It just seems to defy all logic. But buried inside that paradox is the secret to a really profound kind of social power. By becoming the biggest, most obvious target, a person is making a powerful, unspoken statement. They're signaling that they can handle the attention and even thrive on it. And that right there is the central question we're going to answer. This isn't just about ego, it's not about having questionable taste. It's a cold, calculated, evolutionary gamble. It's a strategy that's designed to hijack the most primitive, survival-focused parts of your brain and put you in a state of automatic submission, often before a single word is even spoken. The whole goal is to just completely bypass your rational mind. And today, we're going to expose, step by step, exactly how that trick works. Okay, so here's our roadmap for this masterclass. First, we're going to talk about the risk involved in becoming an expensive target and why that risk is the whole point. Then we'll dive into the physics of how our attention gets hijacked by what I call the gravity of salience. From there, we'll dissect the very precise four-phase loop of the handicap signal itself. We'll get into the deep-seated psychology that makes us surrender to it. And then, finally, I'm going to give you a specific protocol to reclaim your focus and audit for substance over spectacle. Let's get into it.
So let's start with the big idea here. This is not just showing off. We have to reframe this as a high-stakes strategic risk, one that's rooted deep in biology. You know, the term peacocking isn't an accident. In nature, a peacock's giant, colorful tail is a massive burden. It's heavy, it takes a ton of energy to grow, and it basically paints a giant eat me sign for predators. But that's exactly the point. It's a signal to mates that says, look how strong and genetically awesome I am. I can survive and thrive despite carrying this ridiculous handicap. Well, the human version of that risks social attack to prove their dominance. In our world, the predators are social rivals, and the prize is status.
Let's be really clear about what we mean here, because this is a clinical mechanism. It uses over-the-top, high-contrast behaviors. Think about a neon pink suit in a room full of gray ones, or a crazy loud laugh that just stops a conversation dead, to send one very specific, unspoken message. And that message, when you decode it, is this: I am so powerful, so confident, so rich in resources that I can afford to absorb any social attack that comes with being this visible. It's a deliberate gamble, and its primary target is your brain's automatic subconscious operating system.
And that brings us to the core problem. The reason this gamble so often pays off for the person making it.
See, its success isn't really about their strength. It's about a specific, exploitable weakness in your own cognitive wiring. Your brain, for very good evolutionary reasons, is literally built to be hijacked by things that stand out. This isn't a flaw in your design. It's a feature that once kept our ancestors alive. But in today's social world, this is exactly where the leverage against you begins. This is the first domino to fall. Salience. It's a fundamental biological principle. Think about it. You're scrolling through your social media feed. What makes you stop? It's the brightest colors, the loudest sounds, the most outrageous headlines, right? You don't choose to look. Your ancient brainstem, through something called the Orienting Reflex, makes that choice for you in a fraction of a second. It's pure survival instinct. What's different could be a threat, or it could be an opportunity. Well, the psychological peacock manufactures this exact effect in a social setting. They become the red dot in a field of gray. They intentionally break the social pattern just to force your brain to pay attention to. Now, right after your attention gets grabbed, your brain makes a critical error. You use a mental shortcut. We call it the status heuristic. And subconsciously, your brain reasons that because this person is expensive to look at, they're visually loud, they're taking up a lot of your brain power, they must also be expensive to ignore. This is the big mistake. You confuse salience for significance. You mistake being attention-grabbing for being important. And what's the consequence of all this? You experience a loss of what we call cognitive sovereignty.
That's a fancy term for your ability to direct your own focus, to use your mental energy on what you decide. You walk into a room with a plan, right? An agenda, people you need to talk to. But all of a sudden you find yourself just stuck in someone else's gravity. Your focus isn't your own anymore. It's being pulled and it's being directed. You're not just watching them, you are actively being managed by them. And just like that, they've taken this psychological high ground.
So, how is this done so effectively? Look, this is not some random act of charisma. It is a precise, repeatable, 4-phase system. We are now going to pull back the curtain and look at the engine that drives this whole process of capturing attention and manufacturing status. Let's break down the anatomy of the handicap signal. This signal works like a self-reinforcing loop. It gets stronger every time it cycles through. It all starts with contrast injection to grab your involuntary attention. It follows that up with a resource broadcast to imply they have power and resources to spare. Then it brilliantly uses that broadcast as a status filter to read the power dynamics of the entire room. And it all finishes with a validation lock, where their claimed status gets silently accepted by everyone else. Let's dig into each of these phases. Phase 1 is the opening move, contrast injection. The operator walks into a space and just shatters the existing social or visual vibe. Think about someone showing up to a formal event in a t-shirt and ripped jeans, or the new person in a meeting who speaks up with way too much confidence before anyone else. The goal is to become the high contrast node, the one thing that doesn't fit, the puzzle your brain feels like it has to solve. And you don't get a choice here. This forces your primitive orienting reflex to kick in. You have to look. You have to process it. So once they have your involuntary attention, they immediately move to phase 2, the resource broadcast. This is where the wastefulness of the display becomes the entire message. An absurdly expensive watch, a casually dropped story about some lavish trip, or just physically taking up way more space than is normal, all of these things are resource markers. The subtext is powerful, it's primal, and it's aimed right at you. I have so much extra energy or wealth or confidence that I can afford to waste it on this ridiculous display. Now this is where it gets really clever, where the peacock turns the tables and gets the real leverage. Phase 3 is the status filter. That display isn't just for show, it's a sophisticated diagnostic tool. The operator is now silently scanning the room, reading every tiny reaction to their display. And they're sorting everyone into 2 simple buckets. You have the admirers, the people who look impressed, who get quiet when they talk. They are validating the signal. Then you have the rivals, the ones who pointedly look away, who challenge them, or who try to one-up them. Just like that, they are mapping the entire social hierarchy of the room in real time. And this is where the trap snaps shut. Phase 4, the validation lock. If the operator can handle the intense scrutiny they've just invited, if they stay cool, confident, and totally unfazed by both the admirers and the rivals, their signal is considered validated. At that moment, the entire room just implicitly accepts the new hierarchy. The gamble worked. They've just gained what's called referent power, the ability to influence people just because they're admired and seem to have high status, whether it's real or, in this case, completely manufactured. Control of the room's focus has just shifted. So why do we fall for this? I mean, why does this trick work so consistently, even on really smart, savvy people? Well, it's not a failure of character or intelligence. The answer is in a set of deep-seated psychological biases, these little mental shortcuts that the peacock knows, either intuitively or deliberately, how to exploit perfectly. Let's dive into the psychology of our own surrender. The main principle at play here is the heuristic of high cost. See, our brains evolved in a world where signals were almost always honest because they were expensive to create. A big deer with huge antlers couldn't fake it. The biological cost of growing and carrying those things was a real, unfakeable sign of its strength and health. And we apply that same ancient survival-based logic to our modern social lives. Just like we assume the deer with the biggest antlers is the strongest, we subconsciously assume, hey, if this person can get away with being this loud, this visible, this much of a target, they must be genuinely powerful. And this right here brilliantly illustrates the core mental error that you're being manipulated into making. The peacock expertly forces you to confuse visibility with value. On the left, you've got visibility. That's just how much attention something gets. On the right, you have value, the actual substance, competence, or merit it represents. The entire strategy is designed to create such a blinding glare in that left column that you automatically assume it equals what's in the right column. It's a powerful and, frankly, very effective illusion. And there are 2 other specific biases that work together to seal the deal.
First is the halo effect. This is our tendency to let one really vivid trait color our perception of everything else about a person. Think about a celebrity endorsement. We see a famous, attractive person in a commercial, and our brain just kind of assumes they're also an expert on luxury cars or whatever. This then triggers our authority bias, where we just instinctively defer to people who look like they're in charge. The Peacock manufactures a high-status halo, which triggers our deference. They are literally weaponizing our own mental shortcuts against us. Okay, so we've taken the mechanism apart, we've looked at the psychology, you understand the trick. Now, it's time to fight back. How do you counter this? How do you reclaim your cognitive sovereignty when someone is actively trying to manage your attention? Well, the answer isn't to try and out-peacock them. The answer is a clear 3-step strategy I call the signal-to-noise protocol. This is the crucial point. You have to fundamentally shift your mindset. You have to stop being a passive, captivated spectator in their little social theater and become an active, impartial auditor. You see, an auditor doesn't get mesmerized by a flashy presentation. They look past the surface, they check the numbers, and they verify the substance. It's a conscious shift from a state of emotional reaction to one of cool, rational analysis. So the protocol has 3 powerful actions. First, cognitive reappraisal, to break that initial spell they try to cast. Second, attention rationing, to deny them the very resource they're after. And third, a competence audit, to actually test for substance behind all that flash. Let's break them down. All right, let's jump in to the first action, cognitive reappraisal. The instant you feel that magnetic pull, that subconscious urge to stare or be impressed, you have to consciously step in. You have to mentally label what you're seeing. Just say to yourself, this is a high contrast signal designed to capture attention, or I'm observing a resource broadcast. By simply naming the tactic, you are yanking the processing of it out of your reactive emotional brain and moving it into your analytical rational brain. You are effectively breaking the status spell in real time. The second action is attention rationing. Remember, your attention is the currency they want, so don't give it to them for free. You have to refuse to do the double take. Withhold that wide-eyed gaze of admiration. You can acknowledge the person with a simple, neutral nod, but consciously, deliberately choose not to acknowledge the display. Your neutrality is an incredibly powerful countermove. It starves their strategy of the validation it desperately needs to complete its loop. You are single-handedly disrupting the leverage of their visual claim. And the final action is proactive, the competence audit. This is where you call their bluff. Ask specific, substantive questions that require actual knowledge to answer, not just social confidence. Questions about data, process, verifiable results, the how behind all their grand statements. In essence, you strip away the neon suit and the loud laugh and ask, okay, but what's actually here? You force them to perform on a level playing field, one based on merit, not just spectacle. And you'll find out very quickly if there's any real value behind all that high visibility. Now, it's worth noting that these principles of attention, they're not inherently evil. When they're used ethically and with authenticity, a true leader can create what we call authentic salience. This is about using visibility not to boost a personal ego, but to signal and reinforce a team's core values. It's about choosing to be vivid and high contrast only when it serves a collective mission. It's using the spotlight to illuminate important truths for the group, not to blind the competition. It's about leading with substance, not just style. Okay, so let's bring this all home. After taking apart the strategy, the psychology, and the counter protocol, we get to the final core insight, the foundational principle that really governs all of these high-stakes social dynamics. This is the key that unlocks everything, the one thing you have to remember. And here it is. The bottom line is that attention is the currency of modern power. The person who can command it can command influence. But, and this is absolutely everything, substance is the gold that has to back that currency up. A signal without substance is just social inflation. It's a bubble, just waiting to be popped by a single, sharp question. If you let yourself be blinded by the flash of the currency, you'll never stop to check if there's any gold in the vault. Don't be fooled by the glitter. And we'll end with this. The person who owns the gaze owns the group. This is the ultimate takeaway. The battle for influence in any room you ever walk into is often a battle for control over what people are looking at. By understanding the handicap signal, you can not only protect your own gaze, but also learn to direct it consciously, toward substance, toward value, and ultimately toward the truth. So the next time you walk into a room, ask yourself, who owns your gaze? And more importantly, why?